We've all been there. Staring at a task, knowing you should be doing it, but you just feel stuck, totally frozen. We have a word for it, right? We call it laziness. But what if that's not really what's going on? What if it's something else entirely? Well, in this explainer, we're going to unpack the real psychology behind why you just can't seem to get started.
Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Your to-do list is staring you down. It's full of things you need to do, maybe even stuff you want to get done. But what happens? You end up stuck, just scrolling on your phone or suddenly deciding it's the perfect time to organize your spice rack, literally anything but the task at hand. It is so frustrating, and trust me, it's incredibly common.
Okay, so here is the most important thing I want you to hear, right from the get-go. That feeling, that paralysis, it is not a character flaw. It's not a sign that you're weak or broken or that something's wrong with you. It's not a moral failing. It's actually a biological signal that your brain is sending you. And the best part is, once you understand what that signal means, you can start working with your brain, not against it. All right, so let's dive in. The very first thing we have to do is take apart this story that most of us have been telling ourselves for years. I like to call it the laziness trap. I mean, think about it. For most of our lives, laziness gets framed as this personal defect, right? Like it's a simple lack of willpower or you're not disciplined enough. And of course, when we believe that, what do? We blame ourselves. That leads to guilt and shame, and guess what that leads to? Yep, even more inaction. It's a really vicious cycle.
But what if that entire story is just wrong? Let's peel back the layers and look at what's actually happening inside your brain when you feel this way. Because, the science tells a completely different story.
And here it is. This one idea, it changes everything. It completely reframes the entire problem. That feeling you've been calling laziness, it's actually just your brain being overwhelmed. It's a specific and, more importantly, a temporary state of mind. It's not who you are, it's just where your brain is at in that specific moment. So what exactly is overwhelm? Well, think of it like this. It's a biological response. When your brain looks at a task and sees it as just too big, too complicated, or way too intimidating, it does what any good system does. It hits the emergency brake. It's a protective shutdown, really. It's trying to stop you from wasting energy on something it thinks is an impossible challenge. And the result of that shutdown, you guessed it, inaction. You just freeze. Okay, let's really break this down, because the difference is night and day. The myth, the story we tell ourselves, says the problem is me. It's a permanent flaw in my character. But the reality? The reality says the problem isn't you at all. It's the size of the task, or at least how your brain is seeing it. And this shift in thinking is absolutely crucial. Because look, it's pretty hard to change a fundamental part of your character, right? But changing how big a task seems, that's something we can totally do. All right, so if the problem is just that a task feels too big, then the solution is actually kind of beautiful in its simplicity. We just need to make it feel small. And that brings us to the practical, actionable part of all this, the incredible power of tiny steps. Okay, let's use a classic example. Your brain sees this on your to-do list: clean the entire house. Whoa. I mean, your brain doesn't just read those words. It immediately pictures hours and hours of work, a million little decisions. Where do I even start? The bathroom? The kitchen? It's the perfect recipe for that overwhelmed shutdown we were just talking about. The brain just goes, nope, and closes up shop. But now, look at this instead. Forget clean the house. How about this? Pick up one piece of trash. Can you do that? Of course you can. What about put one dish in the sink? Easy. Wipe one counter. Done. See? These steps are so ridiculously small, so completely non-threatening, that they basically sneak right past your brain's overwhelm filter. They're too tiny for the alarm bells to even go off. And that right there is the core of the whole strategy. It doesn't matter what your personal mountain is. Maybe it's writing a huge report or finally starting a new workout routine. The goal isn't to stare at the summit and figure out how to climb the whole thing at once. Nope. The goal is just to find the smallest, most ridiculously easy first step you can possibly take. But why is this so ridiculously effective? I mean, it feels almost too simple, right? Well, it's not just about tricking your brain. There's some really cool psychology at play here. Let's get into the science of what we call the small win. This is the magic of it right here. See, we tend to think of motivation as this thing we have to wait for, like a bus, but it's not. You can actually generate it yourself. That one tiny action, picking up that one piece of trash, that's a completed task. It's a win, no matter how small. And that tiny little win,
That's the spark that gets the whole engine of motivation going again.
So forget about the 20 things on your list. Forget the 10 chapters you have to read. This is the only number you need to focus on. Just one. One email. One sentence written. One dish in the sink. That single action is the only thing that matters, because it's the key to breaking that cycle of just sitting there, doing nothing.
So here's the play-by-play of why that one little action is like a magic key. First, like we said, it's so small, it just bypasses the brain's nope, too big shutdown switch. Then, when you complete it, you get a little hit of dopamine, that feel-good chemical, which gives you an immediate sense of accomplishment. That feeling creates momentum, like a tiny rocket boost. And finally, it proves to your brain, hey, maybe this whole thing isn't so impossible after all. So, if there's only one thing you remember from all of this, let it be this simple shift in focus. Stop staring at the finish line. Seriously, that's what's causing the overwhelm in the first place. Instead, put all of your attention, all of your energy into one thing and one thing only, finding and taking that very first tiny step.
And that brings us right here to the final, most important question. I want you to think about that big, scary, overwhelming thing on your to-do list right now. You know the one I'm talking about. The one you've been putting off for days or maybe even weeks. Now forget the whole project for a second. Just what is your one single tiny step? What's something you can do in the next 5 minutes to get started?